The name of the show is The Way to Go. My name is Alan Bendich. I'm going to be your host. Tonight we have a wonderful model and actress, and she's our guest tonight, and her name is Faith Logan. Welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me.
That's my pleasure. So you're local to Westchester, right?
Yes, I am. Born and raised in Westchester. Went through the elementary, the middle, the high school, and actually went to college here too.
Wow.
Still living in Westchester and pursuing a career in the entertainment industry down in Manhattan.
So have you done most of your work in New York City? In acting?
A lot of my work, yes, has been in New York City.
Right.
All 5 boroughs.
Right. So how did you start getting into the business?
The story of how I initially got into the business is kind of interesting. My interest was that I initially wanted to be an opera singer. I graduated with a degree in music business and a minor in Italian. Mm-hmm. My best friend on campus at the time was a theater student and wanted me to go to a casting that was on campus. And it was initially for a pilot that ended up not getting the green light. But I ended up going. My friend backed out. I auditioned, and I got the part. And it was for an HBO show.
Great.
And that marked the beginning of it. And my college ended up writing an article, got a little bit of buzz, and yeah.
That's awesome. So I did check out your IMDb page, and you have to spend some. I had a sandwich while I was reading it, and I was. There's so many things you did. How did you get so much work in such a short period of time? Because you're a young person. You started in 2015, was it? Or?
Yes, I got started in 2015.
Right.
Came right out of the gate. Things connected after doing Show Me a Hero. I'd been working consistently. Right. Ended up getting an agent within a year. Ended up joining SAG within the year, which was great. Also did some modeling on the side to help supplement with the acting.
Right. Yeah, I remember I got my SAG card, I think it was in '83, and it was like one of the, the greatest thing that ever happened to me in my life. And it was also, back then, it only cost $600 to get into SAG.
Yeah, the initiation fee now, I think, is what, $3,000?
Yes,
plus
crazy.
100 something?
Yeah, but it's worth it.
It really is.
Right.
I still have the letter of when I joined SAG on my fridge. Yeah. Really just a proud union-paying member.
And I had my first SAG card, which was a piece of paper. Now that I guess now it's more like a credit card, but in those days it was just a piece of paper. But that piece of paper was so meaningful, and it was just amazing. That was one of the greatest moments of my life, getting that. So you studied acting, did you take any courses in acting?
I took an acting for non-majors course when I was an undergrad. A lot of what I've learned with acting has been through my opera background and also through my musical background, because I did a lot of work with musicals. Right. And the majority of what I've learned has been on set through some really talented actors, directors, and producers, and just watching them work.
Right. Yeah, that's my experience also was very similar to that. I got my job because of how I looked. Mm-hmm. And I was in Hollywood, and I had a New York accent, and so Cagney and Lacey was taking place in New York and all this other stuff. So as soon as I got my first gig, my major gig, which was Cagney and Lacey, that's when I started taking classes,
Mm-hmm.
So, because I figured I might as well try to learn now that I'm actually working.
Oh, understandably. And I still take classes through the SAG Conservatory, which is an invaluable resource for SAG members.
Right.
All about audition technique, working on camera, teleprompter. It's fantastic.
It is, it's great.
And I really wish more young actors and filmmakers and producers would just, avail themselves to these resources.
So you said you did musicals, or did you do stage work at all as you were learning, or?
Yes, I did actually.
Okay, yes.
Part of what I had to do for undergraduate when I was in college, because of the music business, was internships. Right. And I did an internship actually locally with New Rochelle Opera.
Oh, cool.
I had the chance to work with Camille herself. She was absolutely lovely.
Yes.
And I ended up becoming immersed in all aspects of running a production. So a lot of the behind-the-scenes stage work, making sure that all of the costumes were laid out, the fittings were together, the social media marketing was taken care of. Mm-hmm. You end up developing such an appreciation for the craft in so many ways.
So do you plan, you're a film actress for the most part, right?
Yes.
Film, video, whatever you want to call it.
Film and television, yes.
Right. So have you done commercials?
I've done some commercials, yes. Right. Actually, back in 2016, I did a commercial for the opening day for the Yanks.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love commercials.
It was a real person commercial.
The best part about a commercial is, depending if it's a 15-second or 30-second commercial or a minute, whatever, you could work for 4 hours and make tons of money. That's one thing about a national commercial, which is really
The cool part with that was I got to work with Pete Davidson, and on top of that, they ended up giving, opening day tickets.
Oh, that's awesome.
Signed baseball by shortstop Didi Gregorius, who I'm honestly upset is no longer with us. The Phillies ended up getting him.
Right. But I like the money. as much as, I like also working with, for most of the time, my career now is, I do it in my spare time. And I really have been working mostly with the same production companies and directors and producers. And, I would love to be able to go out and audition. But, do you audition a lot for parts?
Yes, I do. I'm still at the point, I'm in the very early stages of my career. I've been acting since 2015, 2016.
Right.
So coming up on 4 or 5 years.
Well, that's it. But it sounds like, with all the parts you've gotten, you've been very successful. So how often do you audition?
My agents are usually sending me in as much as possible. It sometimes depends because, the wintertime, things usually are a little bit slower for actors.
Right.
That's usually when fashion weekends are picking up for me. So if it's not the acting in that perspective, modeling's keeping me busy.
So when you're going to an audition, do you get the butterflies at all, or is it?
Not really butterflies. The way I describe it, it's more of a surge of adrenaline.
Right. Same thing with me. One of the techniques I used, I don't use it anymore because I'm 64. But before, I used to do push-ups right before I get myself really pumped up. I drink a lot of caffeine, which I still do before I do stuff. But I love to get my heart pounding before I go into an audition. But the adrenaline rushes anyway. So do you? I get the best time in my life is when I'm acting or even on this show, whatever. Do you get that rush still? Do you get the rush when you're acting?
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
It's just such a thrill. And on top of that, for me, I found with the acting, the fact that I model and the fact that I was trained as an opera singer, the musician has helped so much.
Right.
Because I get such thrill also out of even just reading copy.
Right.
Because if you look at the grammar and the punctuation, you take it as a beat.
Right.
You see that comma as a half note. You see that period as just, you can have so much fun with it.
Yeah, definitely. How long do you usually, if you have let's say, how much time do you spend with the script when you're in preparation, once you get the part, let's say?
Once I get the part, oh man, I immerse myself into that script fully. I will go through it cover to cover. I'll read it maybe about 2 or 3 times back to back.
Right.
I'll read it once through.
Right.
Second time I'll look through the character parts. Then I'll look to see what the interactions are of the others with the character.
Right. So you read the entire script?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Because I want to get an idea for where everything's going. Then I want to see how they interact with my character, get an idea for how the others feel about her. Because I take all of that into consideration when I'm prepping for a role.
Well, that's awesome. I usually take the shortcut and just do my lines. but I usually, I do it, but the shortcut, but I focus in on it. I spend tons of time on the scene work that I'm working on. And sometimes when I go to a movie that I'm in or something like that, I love being surprised at the end to see how it actually turns out. But,
I believe it.
Right.
Yes.
And it's like most of the movie, in the olden days or whatever, when even 7, 8 years ago, we'd run through the scripts, and lately most of the movies I work on, you basically, if you have any time to rehearse, because time is money.
Right.
It's kind of difficult. You have to do that on your own.
Oh yes, completely. Especially since production's going to be like, no, chop, chop.
Right.
We got to get this done. We want to try to keep costs down as much as possible.
So what type of parts do you like the best?
I like the ones that I can honestly sink my teeth into. I'm right now prepping for a feature called Blood-Borne, and it's going to be starring not only myself but also Jeremy Sumpter, Ed Asner.
Oh, I love Ed Asner.
Oh yeah, unknown guy named Ed Asner. Brilliant, brilliant actor. I loved him in the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
So did everybody in the world.
And my generation also knows him from Up,
Right.
the grumpy old man from Up.
I'm so happy he's still with us, I'll tell you. He's...
You know his Twitter handle is Ed Asner is not dead.
Right. I didn't know that. But he's a terrific actor.
He is.
And he's just the opposite. I mean, I'm assuming that is the opposite of what he usually plays. Like, he seems like a really nice guy. And politically, I like him too. So that's great. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're going to be shooting for a May, June date. We're going to be out in Oklahoma.
Right.
I'm just going to fill you in a little bit about the project.
Cool.
Jo Lynn, the character that I'm playing,
Yes.
is the girlfriend of a down-on-his-luck veteran who finds out that his blood has the antibodies to cure cancer.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And the question that kind of looms all over this movie is, what would you do if you knew that your blood had this ability to cure cancer?
Right.
You know, would you sell it to Big Pharma and turn a big profit? Would you tell everybody that you knew, or would you only heal your loved ones, just
Right.
specific people?
Yes.
And it's a very thrilling kind of drama.
Right. And it's soul searching, I guess, in a way, you know, and that's it. Because, yeah, people talk, it's like almost hitting, like you have the opportunity of hitting the lottery or doing good, you know, good for the humanity or whatever,
Exactly.
you know. So it's like, it sounds like an excellent part. It's great. And it sounds like it's a lead, right?
It's a lead role, yes.
That's so awesome.
I'm excited, yeah.
And it's a feature?
It's a feature, yeah. We just secured all distribution.
Cool. So where's it going to be seen?
They said all media at this point, so it's looking like streaming. It's looking like it's going to be...
Yeah, most of the movies that I've been doing have gone streaming and stuff like that. You know, there's usually like a premiere in a theater, and then it's either Netflix or Amazon or wherever it goes. You know, and it's fun. I still miss having the stuff I worked in being in the theater all the time. You know, that was more like the '80s when I was acting, because you know, that was fun. But now, with all the outlets, it's still good because more people actually get a chance to see it, the opportunity to see it. But it's interesting, the whole evolution of film. So
Yeah, the way they were talking with all distribution, it sounded like it's going to be streaming, but it's also going to be theater.
right. So that's cool.
I'm excited.
Oh, I hope I get a chance to see it in the theater. I could say, wow, she was on my show. I can't believe Faith Logan, the star. And when I come up to you for your autograph, you're going to say, I'm sorry. Who are you again?
Oh, no.
I'm joking. Now, I worked with Marty Cove, who's, he was the bad guy in The Karate Kid. He was like the bad dojo dude. And he worked on Cagney and Lacey, and I worked with him side by side for 3 years. And I'm Jewish, and on Passover, we had to work on Passover on
Really?
Cagney and Lacey. So he brought a bottle of wine, because that's one of the things you do on Passover. And a few of us Jewish people got together, and we were drinking the wine on the set. And he said, you know, I really like you a lot. I'd like to give you something. So he takes this 8x10 black and white glossy, and it had been a movie that he had been in with Sylvester Stallone. And he said, you know, and after being next to him for 3 years, he said, you know, I want to give this to you, to my very good friend, what's your name again? And anyway, so that's showbiz. At least that's Marty Cove. I love Marty, yeah, and I would love to work with him again, but it's showbiz is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, so you have you brought a clip in, right?
Yes, I did.
What could you give us a little information about what the clip is about?
Oh, yeah. So the clip was taken from Celebrity Hotspot. It was just a quick interview that they wanted regarding some of what had been happening with Blood-Borne. And they wanted to know a little bit more about the projects that I'd been working on in the past.
Right.
And the clips are going to be just discussing my advice for young actors.
Right.
And the other one is just some of the volunteer work that I'd been involved with and some of the charities I'd been involved with.
Would you like to share that with our audience?
So I've had the pleasure of sitting in on some of the panels and some of the summits with the United Nations for
Wow.
some very worthwhile initiatives. The Liechtenstein Initiative, which is against anti-child trafficking and anti-bullying. Another one which was about the international eradication of poverty, International Day of the Girl. And I'm also involved with a lot of fashion shows which benefit charity.
Cool.
And I'm just... I
Sounds
can't
like-
help but smile just talking about it, because it's just one of the shows that I recently did.
Yes.
The benefits went to St. Jude's Children's Research
that's
Hospital,
great. Yeah.
and it was at FAO Schwartz, and it warmed my heart. And this particular event was through Kiss the Monkeys and Kiss the Mermaids.
Right.
And their whole
Was JT involved in that too?
JT was involved with that. That's how I met him.
That's it. That's interesting because I did see it on Facebook. That's awesome. I didn't know that. So yeah, JT and I are friends since 2012.
JT's a great guy.
He's a wonderful guy. Love the guy. I've known him and he's our casting director here. So that's
Oh,
how
no
I met,
kidding.
That's how I met you. Anyway, so let's share the video with our audience, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so enjoy the video.
In addition to my work with the United Nations and the fact that I have done some fashion shows which have supported some very noble causes, I have also aligned myself with the following charities and organizations such as autism awareness, breast cancer awareness, pet rescue, and I'm also involved with a lot of mentorship efforts. And after all, the volunteerism and giving back your talents and your time has been intrinsic to me since college, and actually quite honestly since I was young. I was involved very much with the Duchesne Center, which is now the Mary T. Clark Center at my college, which is focused on giving back your time and your talents and your efforts. So I encourage you to do the same. There's no really behind-the-scenes secret, but there's a couple of tips and a couple of tricks that you learn when you're on set. Quite honestly, as an actor, when you're on set, you learn the following: never stop learning. This was a very important thing for me. Always pay attention to what's happening on set, and just have fun observing people, because as an actor, you draw a lot of your acting based on what you observe from others. What I'd also say is do your research, learn your lines, learn the lines of the other people in the scene because it makes everything go so much smoother. Trust your instincts, be natural and be authentic, and never hesitate to ask questions. But don't do it in the middle of filming, and don't do it before someone's had their morning coffee. Timing is everything.
I think I learned a few things from this as well. Yeah, to me, the more natural the communication is between two people, the more interesting it is. And that was one of the one class I took, all it was cold reading. And because that's like, and it's been, I found it to be true, is that the most important thing is to get the part. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Because if you don't have the part, you could be the best actor in the world. But and I used to know a lot of people who called themselves actors, but they never acted. You know, they just took classes and things like that. But the most important thing, at least in Hollywood back in the day, was to get the part. Once you get the part, you sign the contract, they got to use you.
You're good, yeah.
You're good to go. So the cold reading course was the best thing. And one thing the teacher always would set me up with, it was always a guy and a girl.
Okay.
And there were like bleachers on the side with like guys would be on one side, girls would be on the other, and then everybody would go right in the middle. And you had to be connected one way or another. I mean, you'd have the script 5 minutes before, you know, and do the cold reading. And he wouldn't let you stop until it was real, whatever was happening, you know, that you were connected. That it wasn't, you know, two people just saying words to each other.
It must have been emotionally exhausting.
It was great. It was wonderful. And it was brutal sometimes if you weren't into it on that day. But once you start doing it, it got easier and easier you know, and it was more and more interesting. And we had really big actors coming into this class too. Even, you know, people who were like signed on as stars for television shows would come in every week just to do this acting class. So that's the acting class I missed the most, and it's also the only acting class I ever took. But did you study any cold reading at all, or is that something that you just naturally do?
The cold reading, some of it I'd picked up from, you know, auditioning, being on set, and also since I'm an equity member, a lot of the Broadway auditions now do require cold reads.
Oh, so have you been on Broadway?
I've done some auditioning for some Broadway shows,
Right.
some off-Broadway.
A good buddy of mine who was a producer that used me for commercials, and I worked on Comedy Central shows with this guy. He got his first Broadway debut at like 46 years old. So there's hope for all of us, except for me because I'm 64. But
You can invert it.
yeah, that's right. You could just flip it. But it was fantastic. I mean, just seeing him on stage. My wife and I went backstage, and it was just
Pure magic.
it was pure magic, and he was pure magic.
Oh.
And, I was so proud of him, just proud of knowing him. I was like, I felt I was the one on stage, you know, with him, you know.
Those are the kinds of stories that warm your heart, you know?
Yeah, it was great. And he's still acting. It looks like he's going to be in MJ, the musical. Which I'm
Really?
really excited about that. So
That's going to be great.
yeah.
Have you seen some of the other musicals based on musicians like Cher?
No.
Jersey Boys, have you seen?
I saw a version of Jersey Boys on a ship, doing a cruise, but
yeah.
I haven't seen that. But we've gone to some musicals, but not any. I'm trying to think of like something about rock and roll recently, which was, but I'm not sure. It was like.
Was it the Meatloaf one or no?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't the Meatloaf. But Meatloaf used to play at the club that I worked in
Oh,
Hollywood
cool.
when he was still singing. Now he's not singing anymore because he says something happened to him on stage. He fell on stage and now he can't sing
Oh,
anymore.
my
I just read that
goodness.
online recently. So anyway, so tell me about your opera.
I got into opera at a fairly early age. Started taking voice lessons at the age of 12.
Yes.
I absolutely fell in love with just singing in different languages. I had such a passion for singing, and I knew that this was something that I wanted to pursue professionally.
Right.
I minored in Italian in college, ended up taking French and German,
Right.
quite
Wow.
honestly, because those are the operatic
Right.
languages, and if you're going to be eventually traveling overseas for opera, you've got to know the language.
Are you still doing it, or?
I still try to keep it up from time to time, but I can honestly say I had a wonderful experience auditioning for the Met for their chorus.
Wow, that's cool.
And that was such an honor.
Right.
I was keeping busy with the acting. I thought, this is probably not going to happen as far as anything as far as opera.
Right.
But then I get a call. The maestro wanted me to come in and audition for the chorus, and I'm like, I'm going. And they wanted me to audition this past year, but I had a filming commitment.
Right. That's it. The filming commitments, sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad because, it's great to have a film coming up, but then, sometimes another film might come your way and
Exactly.
it's like, God, I wish I could do it, but you've already signed for that other one, It's choices. So have you been comfortable with all the choices that you've made so far?
I have no regrets whatsoever. I will say one thing.
Yeah.
So sorry.
It's like, I like that
So
echo,
sorry.
whatever that was.
Talking into the glass
Right,
like Maria Callas.
That was great.
I will say one thing, though.
Yes.
I have absolutely no regrets as far as what I've decided to do with the acting, but
Right.
there is a trade-off as far as the fact, some of my friends, they want me to hang out with them at certain times, and I'm like, guys, I've got to be up early. I've got a 5 a.m. call timer. Guys, I've got a huge audition, but fortunately, I've got such a great support system, and that's what you really need in this line of
Well,
work.
that's good that you're professional. When I was in Hollywood in the 80s, we would party till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and have a call time at 6. So, there'd be times I don't even know how I got to the set, but it was like, when they say action, all of a sudden, you're reasonably awake and you're doing what you have to do. It was fun. That's one of the problems of having a recurring role on a show, even though it's great to have it. Mm-hmm. You have to be there,
And you have to be on.
That's it. But makeup works. And it really does, actually. And also being young works. I couldn't do it now. There's no way I could, I don't think I could stand being on a series that, 16-hour days and stuff like that. Do you have those long days when you're on set?
Oh, yeah. No, I
it's great to make money.
It definitely is,
Right.
especially, when you're a union member.
Right.
But that being said, it can get grueling.
Yeah. But I do miss those days. I remember on Cagney and Lacey also, we'd have we had a 8-day shooting schedule for it was 48 minutes worth of film for an hour show. It was film, it wasn't video. And
wow.
it was back in the day, and we'd have breakfast, lunch, dinner, pizza at midnight, whatever it is, it was great, and it was great.
Were you a fan of overnight shoots?
Not really, but one of the films I did recently was filmed in Middletown, New York, and my call time was 6 o'clock at night, and they didn't shoot my part until 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was supposed to be like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's another one of those things with makeup works great.
Oh, yeah. And
it
the
came out-
lights.
yeah, the lighting, everything. It was good. It was a good shoot, but I couldn't go to work the next day.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing I've always found with overnights. I love doing them because I'm a night owl. I
Right.
love staying up, but my body clock is usually just so out of whack the next day.
And what happens if you have another call the next day?
So there's a funny story about that. I ended up working a movie where I got my SAG waiver,
Right.
and it was an overnight. We wrapped at 4:30 in the morning in Brooklyn,
Right.
and I had another gig the next day. It was a 7 a.m. call time in Lower Manhattan.
Wow.
And I basically hopped on the transportation, hustled my butt over to the 7 o'clock call time, made sure I grabbed my Starbucks. I was over in Holding, and I explained to them, like, look, I just got off of doing this overnight. I just got my SAG waiver. I'm totally beat. And they were so nice. They were like, well, we're going to call you when we need you. Just feel free, take a nap, have your coffee.
Right.
They ended up wrapping me at noon.
That's
They saw how
crazy.
tired I was, and they were like, you know what, we're going to spare the poor kid, and we're just going to let her sleep. And it was for a Netflix show. They were really accommodating.
My first film that I actually spoke in was for HBO. And I was working at the Hollywood Palace, which was the nightclub I worked in Hollywood. And my bar manager wouldn't let me get out of work. So I had to work until 2:30 in the morning.
Oh my goodness.
And I had a 5 o'clock call time. And it worked. I mean, I still have the clip. But it took a couple of takes for me to get my lines out properly. And I didn't look bad because I was 27 years old.
And you had the energy,
So
yeah.
I was still young, you know. But again, those kind of things I could not do now. But it was pretty awesome. And I love acting. I know you love acting
I've
too.
got such a passion for it.
That's it. That's what it's all about.
Completely.
And it never goes away, by the way.
No.
That's it. I mean, I could tell you, I stopped acting for 20 years. And I got the opportunity again, living in Larchmont, playing poker with a bunch of guys who were in the business. And that's how I got back into acting after 22 years of not acting. I had left Hollywood in 1988. So, and I started again in 2010. And the first thing I did went to the New Hampshire Film Festival, so it was pretty cool.
That's great.
So, I mean, life is great, and acting makes it great, actually.
It makes it all the more worthwhile.
Right. I think that if I didn't have acting, I don't know what I would be doing, actually. You know, to me, it's like I work 5 days a week, but if I have a part to work on, or if I'm, you know, doing my lines at home in my basement, whatever, it gives me hope, you know, because you know what it is. You know what it's like. I mean, it's just, it's like you're on vacation almost when you're at least for me. When I'm doing it, it's the best thing in life to do.
It's liberating.
It is great.
And extremely rewarding because you're able to bring life to a story that somebody wrote. You're stepping into somebody's shoes and you're seeing things from their perspective.
Right, and you're also pushing yourself, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to make sure, you know, getting the lines down, and then all of a sudden you find your character, and it's like, and that's it. When you're one with the character, it's like
That oneness, yeah.
And that doesn't always happen. At least for me, it doesn't always happen. But when it does, that makes, you know, you're chasing that rush again. You know, trying to get, you know, that's the moment that you really feel. At least I feel like I'm really acting. You know.
It also depends on the dialogue because if you've got a really good script in front of you, you feel like you can just do just about anything with it.
And if you have a really good actor in front of you, then
It's gold.
That's it. It elevates you. Yeah, I mean, if you have someone that you could bounce off of, it's like. It's the best.
And a director who's just able to give you that insight. We're fortunate enough with Blood-Borne that we've got the screenwriter who's always giving his input as to how he wants everything.
As long as he's happy with what you're doing. Right? Well, I don't want to go down that road, but I've had people look at me, you know, I'd say, you know, I don't even ask anymore, but when I first started, I would say, you know, how was that? And they'd say, oh, it's good, you know, it's okay, you know, or whatever. It's good. It was good for me. And when they say it's good for me, it's like, it wasn't really good for them, and it wasn't good for yourself. But I just try to do it, you know, but I do walk away still when after I see you know, if I see myself on the screen or something, or we're doing a premiere, I'm always wondering what the filmmaker, you know, the director is thinking about how the part is, you know, but.
My favorite thing when I was first starting out, because I love learning still all aspects of the craft, and I think it's very important for every young actor to do, to make themselves indispensable. I used to love watching the galleys when we were in between takes, just seeing how everything played back.
I know, I love that, but you know, sometimes, you know, episodes go like that, and there's really just one thing left to say. That's a wrap. Good night, folks.